welcome to Florida's #1 hockey podcast, Cats and Bullets. 3, 2, what?
Uno. I didn't know that I was on camera. Hello, everybody. Hello, Florida NHL fans and NHL fans in general. Welcome to Florida's favorite hockey show and #1 hockey podcast, winner of Florida's fastest growing podcast award, by the way. I'm Rod Peterson. Nick Fairbanks joins us from Locked On Panthers. Serena's not here. She sends her regards. She's in Vegas and actually told me this morning it feels weird not to be doing a podcast on a Wednesday. But Nick, thank you for coming in, brother. Appreciate you.
Thank you. Just big shoes to fill, I guess.
Oh, yeah. Well, yeah. Try to keep the F-bombs to a minimum and we'll be fine. And listen, you were with us in January just before we went to Chicago, and you gave us some restaurant recommendations. You talked Panthers, NHL hockey. You made the team, buddy. You made the team, basically. So congratulations on that.
Appreciate it.
I should tell you, we're brought to you by Beach House Pompano and Baresco and some other exciting sponsors that are coming your way you'll be hearing from in the weeks ahead as we get ready toward the playoffs. But I got a lot of topics here that we can handle between the two of us. But you love us going live, everybody. And you can leave this two-shot up forever, Benny. I like it. You can go to the bathroom if you want to. Although, Ben, this is what's different. Ben's going to read your comments live as they come in on YouTube. The viewers love that, and I think we might also be live on Instagram too. But there's news. There's breaking news. Let's get to it right now. Paul Maurice at Wednesday morning's practice announcing that Brad Marchand is expected, if all goes well, which there's no reason to think that it won't, will return to the lineup. Actually, make his Panthers debut Friday against Utah when they come to American Bank Arena. Here it is.
Something we thought would never happen, especially as the career of Mr. Marchand had, and now he's coming to the rival team in the division to hopefully catapult the Cats to another cup.
Yeah, well, as you said before we went to air here, and thank you, George Richards, for the spot-on reporting on that. That's where we got it from Florida Hockey Now. You said this is right on track of what Bill Zito said when they acquired him at the March 7th deadline, a couple of weeks. And now here we are, and it's working out pretty nice that it will be at home.
Yes.
So how do you think this is going to go? Friday night and beyond.
For Marchand, it's gonna be a lot of butterflies, playing for second team and not knowing really how to feel about that. But I'm sure he's pretty excited to, make the playoffs and definitely put his stamp on the Panthers.
We'll get to all of these comments as we go. You knew, you read it, Ben. The other Ben has chimed in already.
Yeah, I already saw it. So Ben Cobbs goes, "Oh man, no Serena. He's out. LOL."
Bye, Ben. He's joking. Say hey to your family for me, Ben. But can I remind you, Ben, that I was the one that came to Baptist Health Iceplex to watch you play, and we're still waiting on Serena to come down and watch you play, Ben. So we have our own fun little stuff. Have you met Ben Cobbs? You must have.
I have not, but he follows me on Instagram, and I appreciate that.
Oh, he's probably the biggest Panthers fan I know and supported our show from day one. So we have our own little kibitzing back and forth. Okay, so Marchand returns Friday to playing, but it is, again, his Panthers debut. I was going to say, I would expect a sellout, but they sell out every game, 19,500. And we've got a lot to get to, but my next point, which is actual point one before the breaking Marchand news, is as of today, it's a Florida-Tampa Bay round one series. Again, you were the guy a couple of weeks ago that said, can you imagine if it happened? Do you actually think it will?
Yes, I do. Just with the way that both teams are playing, and then, you have Toronto who's going to do Toronto things, hopefully. I think it's going to be a delightful and very interesting first-round series.
Well, it'll be the fourth time that they meet. Right?
Yep.
So the Panthers are, I'm just sorry, I'm sharing this everywhere, buddy. Folks, this is what live broadcasting does for you. Panthers are big brothers now. Or are they?
That's to be determined. Last year, yes, but I think there were things going on with the Lightning that maybe we did not foresee, which, Mr. Stamkos moved on to Nashville. But now you have a Lightning team that, I have to give credit to Serena. She said it, don't take your eyes off of Tampa and look what they're doing. Panthers had a little bit of trouble against Pittsburgh this week, and then I think it was last night, 4 shots, 4 goals against Tristan Jarry.
Just when Pittsburgh thinks that they're getting their act together, something like that happens. Interesting night, though. Kucherov hit 100 points for the 3rd straight season. I think I saw a stat. I see so many stats, I forget them. I posted it to our account. You probably saw it, too. That Kucherov has had the most 100-point seasons since the lockout, which was 2014.
High praise.
The most in the NHL. Yeah. So what is it about the Lightning this year? And I say hey to our Tampa fans and friends and viewers. I was just there last weekend. We got people watching the show over there. I was upset at the way the Stamkos thing went down. I do know Steven, not well. I just don't like the way he was treated. But in retrospect, were they wrong?
With the results,
The
as
decision,
they are now,
yeah.
yes.
No.
I mean, hindsight's always going to be 20/20, but maybe that's just something that they needed to move on from, and they needed other players to step up and make sure that they could fulfill what their obligations were for the team, and maybe the Lightning are going to be better for it. This is just year one. Who knows what's going to happen after next year? I mean, Kucherov is the one that's basically keeping this thing afloat. What happens if an injury happens? What's going to happen? Is Braden Point going to have to take a bigger role? Is Hedman going to have to take a bigger role? We don't know.
Right. By the way, JC has checked in from Dallas, Texas. Hey, JC. Thanks for joining our live Cats and Bolts podcast, the third that we've done. Let's keep her rolling with the questions and the comments as we go, and we'll get Ben Castro to read them. But so, as I say, as of today, it's a Lightning-Panthers round one meeting. The Lightning are only 2 points behind Florida. They're both chasing Toronto. That's why I think this is all going to shift. But let's look at the week that was. And the biggest game for me was, the biggest disappointment is when you anticipate a game all day or all week in football terms, and then it's a letdown. Mm-hmm. That was us. Saturday, I'm at the Valspar Championship in Tampa. Well, Palm Harbor, Florida, with Brent from Wellington, big supporter of this show, and we raced home to the Airbnb to turn on the Panthers and the Capitals. You want to talk about a lot of goals in the first period?
I mean, it seemed like, again, Panthers forgot how to play defense, unfortunately, and it just seems like a lot of miscommunication, but you're seeing the absence of major players on the roster. So, Aaron Ekblad out of the lineup is a huge loss, and then, I think we were missing Nico Mikkola for some time during that game. You're starting to see maybe the depth wither a little bit for the Panthers, but, you got to hope that, the other players can step up and actually play their game the way they're supposed to.
I love that people are sitting back and watching, but I want your involvement, everybody, in this, because there's something I don't understand, and maybe you heard this. I never heard an answer as to why Vitek Vanacek started in goal for the Panthers that night. And shame on me if it was said by Paul Maurice or any of the reporters that covered the team, but it's the best team in the East, the first team to clinch a playoff berth, the Washington Capitals. Why was Bob not playing? And I'm sorry. I support the Panthers. I'm the biggest fan of Bob, and I'm a goalie guy. Now, the Panthers didn't expect to have the roof cave in like that. But did you see an explanation as to why Vitek Vanacek played against the best team in hockey?
I think the thing that came back was that he used to be a Capital, and he was the goaltender against the Panthers in 2022 when they won their first round in almost over 20 years.
Well, JC says, as I'm looking at the comments, could it be that the Jets just don't adjust to playoff hockey? They play the exact same way in the regular seasons as they do in the playoffs. Is it more a live coaching or player problem if they get bounced early? Okay, well, we'll get to that. Mm-hmm. He's talking about the Winnipeg Jets, who are the number one team in the West. And just last night, they beat those Washington Capitals in overtime. And they're not in the top 5 betting favorites to win the Stanley Cup. And they're all pissed off in Winnipeg that they're not. So we'll get to that in a second. Somebody explained to me on Twitter, I don't believe it's because he played in Washington. Maybe it was. Mm-hmm. But I feel like that's a flimsy reason to start the guy. It was 3 years ago.
It definitely was, and obviously he had moved on from there. I mean, he had bounced around, but at the same time, I wonder if Maurice wanted to give Bob the homecoming because, he loves playing in front of the fans, with the Bobby chants and everything. So maybe just some extra mustard, or maybe they knew that Bob was going to be on his A game and he was going to be the second goalie on the back-to-back, so he'd give him that energy. Yeah, well, Pittsburgh was here the next night, and Bob was on point. Shut all the Penguins down in the shootout, and the Panthers won, so they got the points. I just find it very, very interesting. Okay. If I can read one comment, Ben, before you get to Collins. Joshua Dorr checks in. Big Panthers fan, introduced himself to me on the concourse with his wife and his son,
at a Panthers game, and we stopped and took a photo. If I had time, I'd send it to you, Ben. But he goes, "What's going on, Rod?" Welcome, Josh. I appreciate you, brother. Thanks for checking in. Now, over to you, Ben.
We got Colin.
Yeah, let her rip.
Yeah, Colin. So Colin says, don't worry about the second round Panther fans, because when the Sens run your team over, you can go back to bitching about the Dolphins. Ooh.
Says the New York Jets fan, by the way, who hasn't made the playoffs since the Clinton administration. But yeah, so he's getting a little ahead of himself. He thinks Ottawa is going to beat Toronto in the first round of the playoffs, which is, incidentally, if that's a matchup as of today, which I think would be fantastic.
100%.
Yeah.
100%.
But JC in Dallas talked about the Winnipeg Jets. Now, I lived next door to Winnipeg for a half century, so I know that market very well. They're fragile. They've never won a Stanley Cup. The Panthers got out of that ugly group of teams last year. It's an ugly group. You don't want to be there?
No.
With the Vancouver Canucks and the Utahs and the, we all know. But they don't adjust their game in the playoffs. And Connor Hellebuck folds. This was the goalie for the USA in the final of the Four Nations face-off, which I haven't talked to you since.
It's all right. He was fantastic, but again, old behaviors show themselves. And unfortunately, with Winnipeg, your Torontos, history likes to repeat itself. So we'll see if that happens again. But if I were a betting guy, I would probably put the money on that.
That what? The fold?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I know. So it's getting lively in here. I'm going to try and stay on point. This is reminding me of my daytime show. Ben, do you want to read Joshua's retort to Colin in Ottawa?
Of course. So Joshua goes ahead and says, how bad did the Sens lose to the Panthers last game?
I don't remember the score. I wasn't at that game. Was it a Saturday game? For whatever reason, we weren't there.
I think it was like a 3-0 win. I think Bob got the shutout, but I think the other games have been like 6-3. So Matthew is winning the Kachuk Bowl.
Yeah, and up there was the game Barkov got hurt way back at the start of the year.
Correct. Going in to stop a empty netter and goes right into the boards after.
So the Panthers have beaten Ottawa every time. Keep flapping your gums.
6-2 or something along those lines.
Okay, keeps flapping his gums. But here's what you can stay on the two-shot. I like it. We got to get this guy's reactions. He's got good ones. But on Winnipeg, let's be honest. Paul Maurice was there. Everybody
8-9 years
remembers that. Yeah, 9, and he walked. Wasn't easy for him to do. And I'll never forget the day that he did, because I was in the parking lot of PNC Bank on Federal. My phone went off with a notification. It was my birthday, December 16th, 2021. Paul Maurice stepped down as coach of the Jets. I'm like, what? And it was legit. He wasn't fired, but he was like, I'm out. Can't coach this bunch anymore. I think we've found out since who was the problem. It wasn't Paul Maurice. But the thing is, with the media now, and one of the reasons why Serena is as, what should I say, successful at this, she doesn't care what anybody thinks at all. But the media is all afraid to give a hot take. In hockey, football, they don't care. But in hockey, everybody's afraid to say, here's my hot take. Connor Hellebuck can't win the big one. And people in Winnipeg get mad. How dare you say that? He hasn't. And if he wants to put it on the bulletin board, put it on. That kind of stuff fired me up as a player. I think it fires up most players.
Well, it should. I mean, how many times are you going to get your head smashed in by the same team and trying to do the same things year after year? I mean, if anything, I think the Panthers and the Lightning have shown the path to do it. I mean, sometimes you're going to get off your game, and it's not during the playoffs. Just a reminder.
Yeah, well, Connor Hellebuck, I was joking with Brent from Wellington on the weekend, which, by the way, I love hanging out with him because we love all the same things. And we grew up in the same town, didn't know each other, but dated the same girl. Figure that one out.
Oh.
And he came down here in 1997. And we just hooked up, courtesy the Florida Panthers. Bringing people together is what they do in the NHL. But anyways, Joshua Dorr writes in, he goes, 6-2, game before Four Nations. That's a fan. He remembers. So you've gotten very quiet up there calling in Ottawa. You still watching? Anyways.
I'm going to need the book on that relationship, by the way, how you guys in the same city come down here, and Florida Panthers made it whole.
You know what it was? No, it's easy. He's in the Florida Panthers Positive Facebook group. So I was promoting this show in that group.
Okay.
And Brent wrote me and he's like, hey, do you Rod from Regina, the former voice of the Rough Riders? I'm like, yeah. He goes, well, I'm down here since 97. And then we got together and did you date her? Yeah, so did I. So did everybody. Oh. Long time ago was a different time. Ben, you keep us up to date.
We just got something in.
Okay.
JC, how awesome is it to look at where the Atlantic Division is and where it will be for the next 5 years? The amount of competition is great for the game.
Interesting that he says that because Tampa has served notice they're not going anywhere for a while. And the hockey people have said their day of reckoning is coming. You can't expend all your draft picks and expect to have this be sustained forever. Although I think Julian Breesbaugh thinks he could probably find a way. The Leafs are always going to be good. They're never going to be great. No. Although they're first as we sit here today. It is good. You see Boston falling off. Detroit, what the hell are they? Ottawa's getting better. But this Battle of Florida, I can tell you this, the Panthers are going to be good for a long time.
Well, yeah, I mean, you have both GMs who are, willing to take the risk or take the gamble to make their teams better, not only today, but also in the future. I mean, they made that move for Seth Jones thinking that, hey, we do need to shore up our defense now, but what are we going to be doing in the future? Because there are a lot of pending UFAs this team is looking into right now. Are we going to re-sign them or are we not? And Seth Jones could possibly be that answer. But, on Breesbaugh's spot, he was right about Stamkos. He's brought in a lot of other players. He went and got McDonough back again, which has solidified their D. And, he goes out and gets Yanni Gord again.
Guys he trusts.
So it's a small little population. But if you know what you're doing and you have the right people in the right places, you're going to be successful, and it doesn't matter what draft picks you have.
Well, and by the way, I'm learning fast. You do need to get over things, and this is the thing with Stamkos. The reason, great player, from Toronto, greatest Lightning ever. I just didn't like the way it was handled, nor did he. However, you sit here and go, it's like a breakup or anything. What is the best way to do it? There's no good way to do it. I mean, you can figuratively do the bullet in the head or let them down easy, what is that? Either way, you're getting to the same spot.
Well,
right?
Yeah. Honestly, in sports and with the news and everything, how are you going to let a guy down easy? It's going months. It's heading over the whole season. You saw it at the end of the round last year. He was just staring out at the ice. It's like, is this going to be it? Almost like he knew. And you wonder,
yeah.
Has the Lightning been planning this all along? So, unfortunately for the guys or ladies out there, don't get strung along. Make your own decision and do what you got to do.
Yeah. Well, again, you can't argue with what they did, and I'll say I was wrong. Most people also won't admit when they were. I thought the Lightning were going to miss the playoffs, and Detroit was going to take the next step, and that has not happened. Detroit's not making the playoffs. Colin in Ottawa says, I think you know that I'm a bit of a troll, Rod. More likely the Sens get swept by the Panthers, but I have to talk smack. I can't help myself. It's all good, Colin, and I appreciate you joining us today, bro. We have fun with each other. JC says, like you said, Tampa may have presented the outline, but Florida perfected the longevity of the outcome. But it's trickling to other teams like the Canadians, Ottawa, etc. Well, as they say, it's a copycat league. So's the NFL, right? But I don't think you can necessarily. Bill Zito has just blazed this trail, man.
It helps, with his former careers. Being an agent, being an assistant GM, being a scout, he understands the sport and he understands what the team needs. I think the one trade deadline that I remember before he became Panthers GM was when he was in Columbus, and he helped trade all those assets to get Columbus into the playoffs, and they swept the Lightning. That was a team that they were going to go all in because they knew they were losing Bob. They knew they were losing Panarin. So why not put all your chips in and actually try to make a run and make it fun? And he's not stopped, which is amazing.
Yeah. And he's doing all these interviews, too. I watched from the NHL Network, from the NHL GM meetings a couple weeks ago. Zito's everywhere, and Paul Maurice is everywhere. And I will say this, 4 years ago when I got here, somebody told me with the Panthers, nobody ever asks to interview us. I came here at a real good time, obviously, because it's been nothing but great since. But the rink was not full.
No.
As recently as 4 years ago, and I think this wave is going to ride for a long time, which actually dovetails nicely into my next topic. It's a little off what we normally talk about, but I got written here, Florida sports fans, and stick with me. And anybody that's not from here, you're going to enjoy this and maybe learn something.
I know I will.
Well, you know what I'm going to say.
Yes.
I was watching Pardon the Interruption last night, and I really enjoyed it. And Mike Wilbon was talking about Jimmy Butler's return with Golden State against the Heat. And it was, is he going to be booed? Are the fans going to be upset? And Wilbon goes, no, it's Miami. They're just half paying attention down there. It's not New York. It's not Boston. It's not Chicago, where he's from. It's not Detroit. Some are going to look around and go, was Jimmy Butler here? And I laugh because I'm like, yes! Except for the Dolphins, where they're all in all the time. But they're just, everybody. And by the way, it's why I fit in here, because I'm kind of the same. Just floating around, happy to be around, be alive, you know.
It's just good to be a hockey fan right now, I guess, in South Florida. I mean,
Yeah.
They finally figured it out. I won't talk about any other sports, teams around here, but it's just nice to actually be able to have, a team or ownership and a manager and the coach here that are willing to actually step out and actually speak on behalf of not only the organization but other causes. They have this whole cause now with Zito, where they're doing like the Panthers. I think you have a gold one, you have a red one, and a blue one that they're doing for fundraising. And if you did this a few years ago, I don't think anybody would be paying attention. So your profile's up there. Why not use it for something good?
Sure. And the other thing that it's taken me a while to learn, I'm not going to name a name, but he's a guy that works in another sport here, but he's Canadian. He's been down here a real long time, since the 80s. But he, like when they got Seth Jones and they got Brad Marchand, he texted me, he goes, are these good trades for the Panthers? I'm like, well, I know you know hockey. But he's not paying attention. He's got a job. There's a lot of other shit going on. And that's not like that in Ottawa. It's not like that in most Canadian cities. Here, there's so much going on that if you're not keeping up, you're not watching the Blackhawks, you're not watching the Bruins, so how would he know if Seth Jones was good or not? And I'm like, yeah, they've been great trades.
Oh, yeah, they have. And, on top of that, if you're not watching those teams and everything, it's probably because they're not good right now in this season. And then secondly, I think that I don't like to use this, and I never liked this excuse, but the weather. To be honest,
it's true.
Like, there's more going on. You want to be outside. We have the ocean. There's more to life than just putting 100% of your attention and your fandom into something. And, I think maybe, there's some of us that are still diehard, but at the same time, life doesn't go at that pace.
No. Why do you think the Dolphins, though, because I believe they're the first pro team in the state, is that why everybody's all in on the Dolphins? I was asked about it this morning by my chiropractor.
I just think it's the NFL. I think their branding, everything that they do is it's top notch. They know what they're doing, and I think the NHL has a lot to learn from them, and and I think the Dolphins are just easy to cheer for, I guess.
I will take. Are they?
I'm a Bears fan. So
I was
yeah.
listening. Okay, fair. Well, full disclosure, my chiropractor, he's writing down for my appointment on Saturday, and he's like, how the Dolphins going to be? And I just looked at him. He's like, I don't like that look. And I said, well, I'm actually a Cowboys fan, and so we have our own issues. But we're not exactly fans of the Chiefs sitting over here. I do have more topics. We've been going over 20 minutes. This goes 25 minutes, actually. Can you read the second last one, Ben, from JC? He's got a good one there.
From JC, he says, with the NHL making waves and the intro of Four Nation, how does the leagues stay fresh? Also, what can the leagues do to better centralize viewership? Tired of 5 streaming services.
Well,
we were just talking about this actually off air about marketing and, where is, are people who are running things, like, are they not, up to date with what's going on? I think just with subscriptions, the way that we are in right now, they want that revenue money, so it pays them to have 5 streaming networks. But, I think they tried it with the NHL Network. They tried it with ESPN back in the 90s and 2000s, and guess what? The NHL left. So the NHL has to figure out, again, is this their best way of doing it? And, they have the NHL Network, but how often are fans actually, checking into that? It's something extra they have to buy into. Why can't I just get it on, a regular channel every week?
I got to think about that. That's the beauty of these live shows, tap dancing on the fly. Number one, for the NHL to stay fresh, they don't got to do a dang thing. Like Jeff Chikrin sat here a couple of weeks ago and said, hey, with our first live show, so I guess it was 3 weeks ago, he goes, the salary cap's going to go up $10 million a year per team each year for the next 3 years. That doesn't happen without really good things having gone on. And his son just signed. By the way, congratulations, Jacob Chikrin. We got to get him in here in the offseason or whenever the Caps aren't playing. But 8 years, $9 million per year. But that was from Chick. $6.2 billion revenue last year for the NHL, record. And the Four Nations face-off got everybody talking. Yep. People around here that I would have never thought would watch a hockey game were asking me about, were those fights set up? Blah, 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 blah. Ben, chime in. You're sitting there nodding. You got a thought.
No, I agree with you. And the fact is, like, we had, numerous clients even in the studio in passing was like, oh my God, I'm watching. And I was like, oh, you watch hockey? No. I was like, oh, okay. So, but yeah, you're totally right.
They're good. They're good. You can't have birthday cake every day. Trust me, I tried. You can't even have pizza every day. So, they've had some good tentpole things, Nick. I think they're in good shape. I don't know what they need to do. As far as the streaming, I can always find a game, by the way. If I want it, I'll find it. And I'm not talking about pirating. I got Amazon. I got NHL Network. I got Sling. Do you not get games that you want to watch?
No, I get every single one.
Yeah.
The one thing that I will say that they need to look into is the blackouts. I think that is the number one thing. If they want to bring more fans in, get rid of the blackouts and you'll get more people. Because, as I said when I was here last time, Chicago Blackhawks were not on in the 90s. So they lost a lot of fans. And then what happened in the 2000s? They were terrible. They couldn't fill the house. If you get rid of the blackouts, you get more people watching, more people interested in your product.
Do you still have the Blackhawks in your heart?
No. Never did. Never did.
Never did?
They killed it. I was a Vancouver fan. That's how far they pushed me.
And you're from Chicago?
Yes. And still we're here with Florida.
Hey, it's all good. Serena gets so mad at me that I don't really have an NHL team. I live here, so the Panthers and Lightning are my teams, but that's different. The Blue Jays are my team in baseball. That's never going to change. The Cowboys are my team. I don't think that'll change. I have a history with these NHL teams, and some of them isn't good. So that's why I'm not cheering for, and I won't name them. So I cherish my relationship with the Panthers and the Lightning. I want to keep it that way. That's why you don't hear me criticize them, but I don't even really think it either. Ben Cobbs writes in, he says, Rod, mention the FAU hockey team winning their natty Sunday.
Yes.
Okay, here's me mentioning it. What? I don't know who they beat, but I know they won the Division II National Championship for college hockey. So way to go, FAU Owls. I don't get it. I've been to the games at the Ice Den. I don't know if you have. They packed that joint. I'm like, who are these people?
I play beer league there, so it's actually awesome that they're able to pack that.
Yeah.
And if they're able to move down to Baptist with more seating, it'd be wonderful for the university.
Yeah. Well, progress, right? Starts with winning. I was going 4 years ago. I don't want to check this hockey out, and I'm like, I can't believe the crowd. I'm like, this is more than just girlfriends, friends, and family, which is more than Canadian university hockey gets. Joshua Dorr says, Rod, do you think the referee should have stopped the goalie fight the other night? My take on that, as a formally certified, ordained hockey ref, is that they were only doing what they were told or what they thought they were supposed to do. Who doesn't love a good goalie fight? That's just my opinion. Is the NHL largely doesn't want fights, and it looked like it was going to be a great one. Even Swayman looked very disappointed that they broke that fight up.
Yeah.
But all I'm saying is don't blame the refs. But you can sit here and think the mixed message. People are still talking about the fights of the Four Nations face-off, but guess what? A lot of people think Matthew Tkachuk was hurt in that fight. So you see why the NHL wouldn't want it. So how do you referee that?
Yeah, I mean, you have two teams going at it, and you have all this energy and, the emotion of the game. Why not let it happen? I mean, you get more viewers that way, but at the same time, you want your stars to still be able to play and, show what your sport is all about. So, it's one of those things, like, you're either on it or you're not, and
yes,
you can see both ways.
Great answer. And the thing, I think the linesman had to make a split-second decision.
Yep.
And in retrospect, they might have not done it. But they were doing what they've been told to do, doing what they think they should do. I'll tell you something, refereeing ain't easy. It's probably the toughest job that anybody has out there. Broadcasting is the easiest. Don't tell anybody.
Your enemy number one. It doesn't matter from the fans or either team's coaches.
Joshua says it would have been great publicity for the league. They got a ton of publicity anyways, and they didn't even fight. Yep. So all that I'm saying is they were doing what they thought was best, and sometimes you boo-boo when you do that. But again, I've been in their skates, literally. I can actually prove that I have. Have you officiated hockey or any sport for that matter?
No. Well, when I was like 8, soccer. So okay. It doesn't really matter.
No, but I was a teen officiating fairly high-level hockey, and I wasn't good. I wasn't good at it. That's why I didn't keep doing it. But I guess I was skating up and down, and I ended up like watching the game, but I wasn't reffing, right? And I'm like, ooh, that was a dirty shot. And all of a sudden, the whole crowd's on my ass for not calling. I'm like, oh! And by then, it's too late, and I got caught watching the game, and it just wasn't for me. As I say, it's hard to do, and it takes a real special person to do it, and I'm not that special or a special type of person to do it.
I will plug Armando Velez from the Locked On Network. He does a lot of reffing. That's like his main passion. So if you ever want any tips or you guys want to find out about refereeing, ask him.
Right. Don't ask me. Ben, we have one more from Mark.
Mark came in. I haven't seen him yet. Mark, I enjoy talking to the linesmen and giving them a hard time during media timeouts at WHL games.
Thank you, Mark. He is in Prince Albert, where I was the voice of the Raiders 1993 to 1995, when I was 20 years old. I was the voice of the PA Raiders. Mark's there now. He's a photographer at the team. Oh! Kelly writes in. She says, Rod, pink is your color.
Ooh.
Let's hear it. Ben agrees. Ben said it first.
I said Rod looks pretty good in pink. I agree.
It's accentuating my tan. Thank you, Kelly. I appreciate you.
Rod, we need to go to half sizes on the 4 ticket packages so we can get that sweet bobblehead. We can split custody.
You need to really be a diehard to know what JC's saying here. He's saying we need to go halvesies on the 4 ticket package, because if you buy 4 tickets, and the games are preordained or predetermined, right?
Yes.
You get a Bob. You can't get a Bobrovsky bobblehead unless you buy 4 tickets. So business is business. We talked about that before.
Yep.
For that, I haven't bought the tickets, and therefore, I don't have a bobblehead of Sergei Bobrovsky. I would give an arm for that, but not the 4 tickets.
I may be able to help you out.
How so?
I actually have a very mint condition / collector's item that I might be able to pawn off to you guys, if you guys would like.
Oh, yeah, of course.
Only 75 made, and I got number 2.
What do you want for it? What do we need to do? How do we make this happen?
As you said, business is business, so we'll have to talk off air about that.
Yeah, we're going to have a GoFundMe for Rod and JC to get the bobblehead, the Bob bobblehead. Well, I think you can also buy another Bob bobblehead for $75 in Pantherland, where he's holding the Stanley Cup. This is a different bobblehead. Mm-hmm. It's gotten out of reach, but one of our viewers of the Rod Peterson show did a bobblehead of me and my co-host of that show. It was like $128 US. These things aren't cheap, basically.
No, they take a lot of time to curate. Just to give you an example of the Bob one that I have, I had to pre-order that before the Stanley Cup final, and then I didn't get it till Christmas of this past Christmas. So it took them 7-8 months to procure. So if you see one available, grab it.
Okay. Joshua Dora says they opened it up for ticket holders too. I got 2 bobbleheads.
Whoa.
See what we're covering here? See what we're learning? Yeah. Making miracles happen on this live show today, which, by the way, is as the positive vibes are flowing. And I thank you again, Kelly, for the compliment. I appreciate you saying that, the pink. I'll wear it more. Dennis, I read you this before the show. Mm-hmm. He goes by on Instagram, and I didn't say it properly. He was nice enough to write me and say cubiche. Is that a Cuban word, Ben?
No. Cubiche?
Yeah, I don't. Oh. Again, Canadian farm kid here. He says, and thank you, Dennis, for the kind note. He says, we're lucky to have you guys down here. It's such a pleasure to have people that are passionate about hockey. I am still learning the game, but really enjoying my time. Thank you and Serena for helping educate this market. Have a great week.
I don't think you could say it any better.
Wow. People are only too quick to spew crap on social media and hate at each other. To go out of your way to say something nice is so bloody rare.
I think it takes more energy to do that. I was always taught the opposite way. It takes more energy to do something negative, but I think in this world, it takes more courage to say something positive and something nice, because guess what? That positive comment could be torn down just as quick.
Yeah.
So it's beautiful that he was able to write that. And yeah, you guys are doing an amazing job.
Thank you, man. I appreciate that. I'm glad to have you here and glad to have you on the team. And Dennis, every week he says something nice. And a lot of people do. People here have been so nice. I love it here so much. By the way, before we roll, so he's from Chicago. No, you can put him on the screen, Benny, because before we went there in January, you gave us some pizza recommendations. And, dude, all we did, it was so bloody cold. You probably talked to your friends and family up there.
Yeah.
It was like the coldest Chicago's ever been. I felt like I was at home in Canada leaving the rink. All we did was sit in the hotel and eat pizza and go to games, hockey games. Frankly, that part was awesome. But talk about the restaurants that you recommended, if you don't mind.
So we talked about Giordano's, we talked about Gino's East, and my favorite, Lou Malnati's, who awesomely did tweet you out.
Yeah.
So thank you guys for taking my recommendation and shouting Rod out about that. But really, that's all there was to do. You see some of the sites, it's really too cold. You're going to eat your pizza, you're going to fill up on it, you're going to be warm, and then you're just going to games.
Serena really wanted to go to the Bean, so we went there. And do they always have an outdoor ice rink right there?
Just during the wintertime.
Oh, sorry. I mean, every winter they have it.
Correct.
Yeah, so there was leftover from the Winter Classic. There was all this NHL signage around, but it was cold just walking there. And so we had a good time watching Connor Bedard and company. Unfortunately, the Panthers weren't there, but they were playing in Vegas and Carolina. And I think that's about it. I don't need to listen. I don't stay too long. I'm ready to roll. So unless you got something to add, Nick, or you want to get off your chest.
No, I'm just Panther fans that are freaking out right now about how they're playing.
Oh, my God, they always are. I don't pay any attention to that.
Relax. That's my message right now. Just relax. The playoffs haven't started. And guess what? If it's the Bolts, if it's Toronto, Ottawa, who cares?
Yeah.
Just be happy you're there.
Ben, you can come on the screen. That's the one thing. I've been in sports a long time, and I've been with losing teams, championship teams, mediocre teams. The best teams don't care who they play.
100%.
Because they know that they're better, and they will be better. So this Panthers stuff, the same thing happened last year.
Yep.
You remember Paul Maurice coming out and saying, everybody needs to relax. Mm-hmm. It was awesome when he did. And they don't have Marchand, they don't have Marchand, but they will Friday night. They don't have Matthew Tkachuk, and they don't have Aaron Ekblad. They're going to have them all.
By at least game 3.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I think before that. So
yeah, I mean, I think Tkachuk will be back sooner than that, but then we have to wait for Ekblad to
Is that what
back.
it is, game 3?
Yeah, it'll be game 3.
Okay. Ben Castro, what do you have to say for yourself?
Another great episode with the #1 Florida Panthers podcast, Cats and Bolts. Thought it was a really good episode. Love having Nick in.
Yeah.
Great co-host here.
Glad to have you part of it, buddy.
I appreciate it.
Okay, thanks everybody for tuning in. We appreciate you all. We'll see you next week here on Cats and Bolts. Oh.